In my previous video on the Bakhmut battle, we looked at how the topography of the battle area has been used by both the Russian and Ukrainian forces to shape their respective tactics. In this video, I'm going to show you a different perspective of the battle map. Bakhmut in 3D. With this 3D map animation, we can get a better sense of the Bakhmut area of operations. Essentially, the city is located in a valley, surrounded in the west, south, and east by higher terrain elevation. It is from these hills that the Wagner Group and the Russian army units have continued their bombing and assaults on the city's eastern and southern areas. Now, when I mention the Russian forces, keep in mind that my reference also includes the Wagner PMC forces, which have been at the forefront of the assault on Bakhmut. For more information on the Wagner Group, check out my other video, and I'll leave a link in the description below. With this 3D map animation, we can get a better sense of the battle area by observing the height differences and the Russian lines of advance towards the city's outskirts. This map also gives us an overall view of the Russian strategy to encircle the city along these higher hillside elevations and why the Russians have focused on some areas over others. Let's begin at the northeastern sector of the battle. Previous reports had indicated that the Russian advance from the east had taken this area that included some factories and warehouses. This area is at a height of approximately 120 to 130 meters, as compared to the Bakhmut city center that is at a height of 100 to 110 meters. Even these manufacturing buildings can provide some additional height advantage. Similarly, the residential area on the eastern outskirts of the city has a height of 130 to 140 meters, so the factory area and this residential area have superior line of sights into the city center as well as providing support for each other. They are essentially two small hills intersected by the slower terrain elevation where a creek or pond area crosses. There are also two road bridges at these locations which appear to have been captured by the Russian forces. It was reported that the Russians had advanced several blocks into this residential area, while later reports show that the Russian forces were pushed back. Both sides are fighting for this area because of its higher elevation, which could provide tactical advantages to both sides. Now let's take a look at the wooded forest area just a bit further north, where a firefight had been reported several days ago. In that skirmish, it appears that the Ukrainian forces of the 57th Motorized Brigade came upon a superior Russian force which included at least one armored vehicle or tank. The Ukrainians wisely withdrew to a safer position, thus leaving the area to the Russians. This wooded area has a height at its crest of approximately 173 meters, making it the highest area closest to the eastern portion of the city. We can easily now see why the wooded area was a strategic location for the Wagner Russian forces to assault and capture. But the limited information coming from this battle area indicates that the Ukrainian forces may have managed to push the Wagner and Russian troops back and possibly all the way up to the M03E40 highway. Again, the reports I am using are coming from various updated maps, ISW reports, and other sources, and they often are contradicting each other or don't have enough information. Regardless of the data sources, the interpretation of the available data clearly shows that the Wagner Russian advance into the North Forest Hill area is a valuable consideration, as the area provides height and cover over the eastern side of the city and is within 2 to 3 kilometers from the city center and the roads and rail lines that connect into the city itself. This position is also within good mortar range, as well as being able to provide a further base where the Russians can attack west, north, and southwest. Now let's look at the southern flank of the Wagner Russian advance. Here we can also see some hills with a height of 165 to 200 meters, while again farther north along this valley corridor, the city drops in elevation to about 110 to 140 meters. As with the other areas, the height advantage this position offers can be very useful for mortar fire, snipers, or even assault troops taking the southern outskirts of the city. There is also a rail line that runs west of the riverbeds, which can be attacked or taken, further weakening the Ukrainian forces' supply routes. Even still, there are a few good options for the Ukrainians. Here in the southern area, specifically to the west, is another large hill with a height of 200 to 235 meters. This hill overlooks the southern area, and the Ukrainian forces could also easily counterattack the Russian southern advance, as has been reported. This is specifically why the Wagner Russian strategy of the last several days, or maybe weeks, has been to encircle the city or at the very least capture these key areas of higher elevations. Lastly, there have been comparisons of Bakhmut to Stalingrad. I've made them as well. The two battles are very different though, with different force sizes, weaponry, and strategic objectives. But the similarities are that winter is approaching, which makes it more difficult to conduct maneuvers and to fight, and the city of Bakhmut has also been shelled relentlessly, just like Stalingrad was, making craters of where buildings once stood and covering the landscape in a ghastly look more reminiscent of World War I trench warfare and no man's land areas. The rubble can be used as a defensive tactic with snipers or even landmines, slowing down the Russian advance. I hope that this 3D map animation provided you with a better perspective of the battle, the tactics, and as always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button and leave a comment. I'll catch you on the next one.